Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you along for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. So happy to have you with us. It's a gorgeous day. It's going to be a gorgeous week. Spring weather is upon us, and couldn't be any happier. What great timing. Tournament time, sunshine time. It's great time. And a great day on this Tuesday. Looking forward to Mike DeCourcy joining us as usual. And in the second hour, special guest, Scott Davenport. Scotty Davenport just retired as the head coach of Bellarmine University down in Louisville. But great friend of the show. He is great coach and a great person. Has been in that community virtually his entire career. I don't know how you managed to do that, but he did, and congratulations to him. And it's tournament time. Tournaments have already begun in many places, but the Big Ten tournament begins in earnest tomorrow. And Indiana playing on Thursday, and as they take on the Oregon Ducks in a rematch of just a week or so ago, this time on a semi-neutral court, but not really. This is closer to a home game for Indiana, but as the number 9 seeded Hoosiers will take on Oregon at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, looking for that 20th win as Indiana sits at 19-14 overall, 10-10 in the Big Ten. Of course, the conference tournament record does not change now. That's what that is, but they've won 4 of their 5 past games as they improved their NCAA stock and have put themselves in a position to make the tournament. And this was very unlikely to happen. And I'll be the first one. Again, I've said it and I'll say it every day that I did not think that they were going to make the tournament. Said it over and over. And congratulations to them for doing so. They fought hard enough to get there, man, and that's an uphill climb. So, congratulations on the work, getting it done. Appreciate everybody joining us, no matter where and how. Whether it's on one of our great radio station affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call, in Evansville, up in the region on the voice of the region, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM, WJOB, and in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked right where you have it. No reason to change it. And if you're following along on YouTube, just give us a like. Just hit the like button right now. It's so easy. Just ding. That's all it takes. We appreciate that immensely. Appreciate everybody hitting us up on the hotline as well from all over. Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Appreciate you. Dusty Banner says the speculative nature of fans during a coaching search seems to have irritated some podcasters, but really, if not for speculation, the listeners would just go away, would they not? Yeah, it's a catch-22. I'm not going to lie. There's no information. And I hate to say that because, yeah, people will just go, well, if there's nothing here to listen to, I'm going to go away. There is some truth to that. But at the same time, there have been people that put stuff out that is just total crap. And it has to be knowingly being put out, and it's crap. I find it, I have a hard time doing that. And I think most people do. Most people in this industry, they're not going to just put stuff out. Some people do that. And it's funny because people want information so badly that even if it's crappy, incorrect information, they don't care. They'll get past that because they had some information to chew on for a little bit. It doesn't come back and flash back onto the people who did that. So, yeah, Brian says he's still holding out for Beard until he or IU says no. Well, all I'm going to tell you is I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. Don't hold your breath. Speaking of crap information, there you go. Have you all right. Yep, you all can hold your breath all you want, but don't see it happening. Just don't see it happening. And there's a myriad of reasons, and I don't think everyone's hung up on one thing. I don't think it is one thing. There are many, many things that Scott Dolson has to examine and take into account for this coaching search. And I'm not going to question what he's doing. I think because I think he's going to do a good job. I truly do. He did a hell of a job in football, and now with people out of his way, with not so many cooks in the kitchen, with his feet not being held to the fire about something, I think, and left alone, I think he'll be fine. He'll be fine. So, and you know what? I even told Scott Dolson this at the last game. I'm fine with not knowing. I don't mind waiting. I know you guys do. But Justin asked, what about Pearl? You know, Pearl is his age is a factor, but it's not aged out. Because if you can coach into your 70s like Rick Pitino is successfully, that means Bruce Pearl has another decade. Now, Bruce Pearl's also looking for a job for his son, I'm pretty sure. But we'll have to see. Just I am so cool with waiting. Keep guessing. That's the fun part. It's not about who you want. It's who do you think is really going to end up in that spot. There you go, Ed. Ed says patience is a virtue on getting a new coach. Yeah, but there's also a lot of reasons why there can't be a lot of information out there too. These guys are working. They are contracted to other schools. They have teams, players that are all playing right now, that are all now focusing on playing in tournaments, whether it's the conference tournament or the upcoming NCAA tournament. Distraction is not something that coach wants for his team or the school wants for their team. So that information it needs to be kept under wraps at all cost because of what it would do elsewhere. So you got to think about all of those things. And Scott Dolson is aware of that. You know, that information getting out could be detrimental to the coaching search. Brian asked, can Ben McCollum recruit the type of players IU is going to need? I don't think any coach that's at Indiana is going to have problems recruiting players. Why would anybody think that? You're going to have the highest NIL budget around. It's Indiana. You're in the Big Ten. I just don't. That's not a question that, it deserves an answer, but Dusty Banner says his fear is after whiffing on all top candidates, McCollum's record is the only way to save face, but not wants to watch the paint dry. Yeah, he has a boring offense, is what Dusty Banners is saying. And it would be a very boring type of basketball. So be careful for what you wish for, people. Ben McCollum fans, you could show up for the game, maybe leave, come back, go get a sandwich, and not miss much. John says, can I say this? We are all going to be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised by that. So Russell points out that Dusty was hired at Michigan last spring on March 24th, less than 2 weeks from now. Yeah, what was the situation there? Brian says, one season at Drake does not an IU coach make. Really? Well, I'm not one to dismiss him as a coach. I'm not saying he's the guy, but I'm not going to dismiss him either. What does an IU coach make? What is an IU coach? It hasn't been one of greatness for the last 25 years. So, Indiana fans are going to have to take a step back with the holier than thou attitude, I think. Relax. Stop. Indiana fans have got to quit dictating things. Well, this, that, and the other. No, just chillax, peeps. Relax, man. It'll all be good. There you go. Fred says it all. Just win, baby. Just win. That is it. Hey, we've got to take a quick break. Overshot my mark. Mike DeCourcy joins us next from the Sporting News. Can't wait. Glad to have you guys along with us. Back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this break.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along and glad to have Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Fox, and Big Ten networks. It is your time of year, man. Your time to shine, Mr. Bracket Analyst.
It's quite a week. I now that I'm doing this element of the job, I feel a little bit like what a coach must feel like. Because got
the nerves. You got the nerves.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, you think about all the things that you have to consider and all the things that are going on, and of course,
it's like a game plan. You got to develop your own game plan.
You do, and it is, it is a challenge for sure. When I got into this, nobody told me there would be scoring it. I just thought I'd be explaining the process and trying to come close and then all of a sudden we've got this bracket matrix and they keep count. And I don't really love that except when I do well.
You'll have to bring on Scotty Davenport with you. He joins us later on, but he just retired.
Yes, I saw that. Congratulations to Scott. He is a wonderful man, a wonderful coach, and happy he's getting a chance to retire on his own terms.
Isn't he one of the greatest people in the business? Seriously.
Absolutely.
I mean, just for a great personality. He needs
really
to be on
is.
PR for somebody. He just has the great personality. But if I was him, I'd be on a beach, baby.
Yes, I would too.
Mai Tai in one hand and a remote in the other.
What? Wait, what are you remoting if you're on the beach?
Well, you still got to watch a tournament when a tournament's on. You don't have to work it. You can watch it and just put your arms back.
Oh, yes.
Be a lot easier. And it is here. It is here. The Big Ten tournament, or there are tournaments around that have already started, completed. Big Ten tournament, of course, starts tomorrow, ends on Sunday, and then the big reveal on the NCAA tournament. But I think this is going to be like the least shocking or surprising as far as the teams that don't make it. It's kind of narrowed down to, you know better than me, but there are years where you've got so many bid stealers and unknowns. There seems to be less unknowns this year. Things seem to be kind of playing out before our eyes.
Well, unless they introduce unknowns into the process. I mean, you won't find almost any. And I can tell you exactly how many online brackets right now have North Carolina. 15 out of 108 that the Matrix has posted right now have Carolina in there. And then it goes down from there. Beyond Carolina, there's nobody that's in more than 5 of those 108 brackets.
But first of all, why are there 108?
Well, I mean, what the Matrix does is they gather everybody that does it and puts it online that they can find. And
but is there 108 people that are worthy of being considered for that?
Well, I will say this, Jim, that I haven't studied them all. It's really hard to go through all of them, right? But because by the end of the week, we probably will have 200. Usually they're around 200. And I don't know what their processes are, but they all generally do pretty well. Generally. And there is usually some consensus to what is done.
That's probably they're all copying off of you.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they do. I doubt it. But my point is that by the time we get to the end of the week, like last year, the year before that, we all basically missed one team and we all basically missed the same team, give or take. I think there were 30 exceptions last year. Most of us had Oklahoma in the field. Out of 200 or so, there were about 170 Oklahomas and about 30 Virginias. And make it 31 because the committee had Virginia and they put them in. And it's been that way for multiple seasons in a row right now. So you look at what's done online and you can get a pretty good read on what you mentioned about that unanimity. We've never had this degree of unanimity before, I don't think. where Carolina is sitting there with 15 votes, so to speak, and the least that anybody that's in the field has is closer to, I can tell you the last team in the field is right now Xavier, and they are on 95 of 108. And Ohio State is further behind them is further ahead of them in the rankings, but they're on 92 brackets out of 108. So there's no guarantee at this point that those teams will get in. Welcome, and thank you, Fred, for the nice greeting. There's no guarantee that those teams get in, but there's clearly not much behind them to put in.
Yeah, and I'm just looking forward to it. I cannot wait. It is the best time of year. It is the best time in America. It is the best time in the world. this month, it has just become an entity of itself, and I love it. How can you not? It's just it just brings so much craziness. I hope we have the upsets that we normally have, which I don't know how you would not, but last night I was asking a friend, I'm like, who you got in the Final Four? And just for kicks, and because I'm thinking, boy, it's hard to go against chalk. It's hard to pick an outlier. I mean, it's hard to go against Auburn. It's hard to go against Florida. It's hard to go against some of these teams that have just been so wicked all season. And I'm like, somebody's going to lose. I don't like Alabama to get to the Final Four. Not that they're not great, but that's how tough it is. They are really good, but I see just enough suspect in them because they'll get knocked off by, say, Auburn or Tennessee. Tennessee, here's another team. The SEC has got so many teams that can win the national championship this year. It's crazy. I think they have 3 different teams that can win the national championship.
Which 3 are they?
Florida, Auburn, and Tennessee.
Okay. It's an interesting theory, and I can't say that that's not true. I can say that there are elements of those 3 teams that make me wonder if that team can go there. And
that's why I don't put Alabama in it. Not that they're not great and not that they can't do it. I'm like, okay, I've got to cut somebody.
Right. And I get it. But Tennessee's offense remains somewhat bulky, not to the degree that they have been at times under Rick Barnes, but still not elite. Auburn, I don't like the way they play the point guard situation. I want a guy in charge. I want somebody that is the guy. That's what usually wins. I can't remember. I looked it up. I mean, I went back years and years and years, all the way back to like early 90s. And only one team in that entire period had anyone other than their point guard lead them in assists. Only one team. And that was North Carolina 2017, when Joel Berry was like 0.1 behind one of his teammates. And every other team led in assists by their point guard, because that's how it works when you are the best team or one of the best teams. And Auburn does not do that. They play multiple point guards, attack you from multiple angles. I kind of like having that guy in charge because that's what wins. It's what has won. And I'm big on what has won, because these precedents keep repeating themselves over time. These qualifications. Who's your NBA first round draft pick? Who is that? Because we've got nearly 40 years of that, of no exceptions to the first round draft pick rule. Going back to who? Come on, you can name him, Jim. Come on. Sitting where you are, you better name him.
All the way back to 40?
No, I said 40, nearly 40 years. So who was the last NCAA champion with no first-round pick on their roster in their rotation? Who was it?
Well, Indiana did in 87.
That's it. That's the last one.
No first-rounders. That's right. Steve Alford was like a second-round pick.
He was one of the first picks of the second round. Now, he would be
Also, the last team to win a national championship that does not have names on their jerseys now.
Hey, I have pointed out that is actually somewhat not true. And I will tell you why.
I know Kansas won it, but they currently have names on their jerseys.
But Kansas, in a real oddity that year, wore names on their jerseys at home, but not on the road. I don't get it. And so when they were playing in the final, I believe they were wearing their road jerseys, and I'm pretty sure that they did not have names. So you couldn't tell who Danny Manning was. It was a complete mystery, and I think that's why Oklahoma
had to get a program. Had to get a program. That's
so those things.
That was the old Chicago White Sox owner back in the days that didn't want names on their jerseys so he could sell programs, I think.
Oh my gosh, that's great stuff. But those things usually recur, and I look at Tennessee. And Tennessee violates a standard that now is in place since 1997, which is every champion, save for over a full season. I throw Baylor out in 21 because the numbers were skewed by the shortened season and by COVID pauses and all of that. So I throw them out. And one of the reasons I throw them out is because they don't fit the top 20 defense standard. And they literally were the best defense in any Final Four I've ever covered. So it doesn't work. The numbers were skewed. But over the course of a full season, only one team has ever won it since 97, which is when Ken Palm's database goes back to. One team has not been top 20 offense and defense in efficiency. And that was UConn 2014, which had the 39th ranked offense. And everybody else has been top 20 in both. And to be honest with you, most of them have been very close to the top in both categories. You have a lot of one in this, two in that by the time they won it. So that's another concern when you look at various teams. And that's why I brought Tennessee up. Now, they could go out and score 100 3 games in a row in Nashville and get their rating up, or they could go out in the tournament and score 100 6 games in a row. And by the end of the year, they'll certainly have a top 20 offense. But I think it gives you a hint about what to worry about, at least in terms of who could win 6 games and who probably won't.
Who is there a team that fits matrix wise the numbers better, or metrics wise the numbers better than anybody else?
Well, I mean, it's Duke, and Duke fits all the categories pretty much.
But is that because they have played in an extraordinarily weak conference all season long? I know they're good, and I think that they're a good team. I don't see Duke winning a national championship. I don't think that they can beat the teams that have more experience, I guess, even though Cooper Flagg's a bad man. He is a bad dude.
I think you're underestimating their experience.
I am, maybe I am, because I don't trust not playing against quality talent all year long. And I'm not saying
and that's fair. And the reason that's fair is that, I mean, I can say, can they go deep? Heck, I mean, Gonzaga played in the West Coast Conference, made 2 title games since 2017. So, of course, they can go deep. The ACC was not good, but it was not the WCC. Although they did not have a St. Mary's in their league even. The WCC on the whole, you're playing lesser players in the course of that league over time. I mean, Pepperdine and Loyola Marymount do not have as good a players as Pitt does, even if Pitt's not as good a team as they should be. And then you do have to play Clemson. And I would say that Clemson would certainly be their St. Mary's if they played them twice, but they only played them once. So that's a concern. But I mean, metrically, very top, close to the top on both offense and defense. They've got multiple first-round picks. They have the 3 obvious ones that will all be one and dones: Cooper Flagg, Kaman Malawach, and Con Knipple. Those guys will all be first-round picks this year. And then they have Malik Evans coming off the bench, who will be a first-round pick, I suspect, next year, who has been adding. Now, he's been adding significant contributions from the bench, but I don't know whether the numbers – I mean, I saw him do it in a big game against Auburn. I was in the gym, and so I know what he can do. But how much his recent numbers are skewed by the fact that they're all in 40-point blowouts, I can't say. But I do think they have enough. And experience-wise, Malik Brown is a fifth-year guy, I think. And I know he's at least a senior. He might be a fifth-year guy. And I love him as a player. I think he's fantastic. You've got at this point, Tyrese Proctor is a third-year sophomore. A third-year junior. So you look at him, and he's not a young player either, not at this point. You've got, I don't know, some guy on the bench who used to play at Purdue and played in the championship game last year. There you go, Mason Gillis. Thanks, Fred.
I was already asked. Now, if Duke does win the national championship, does Purdue get to hang like a 6x3 piece of banner up so they can actually hang a national championship banner?
Oh. They did develop him. Can't take that away.
And they sent him away.
Well, I don't know if they kicked him out or whatever.
But pretty much, because they had to make room for the 6-man freshman incoming class that turned into 5. But that's what happened in essence. That was not part of his plan, of Matt's plan. And you have to respect that he's like stuck to his guns. Hey, this is how we're going to do this. But worked out good for Mason Gillis. I'm sure.
I mean, a year of free education at Duke, playing on one of the best teams in the country, and playing in one of the great venues. Now he's played in two of the great venues in college basketball. I'd say that's a pretty good little deal for Mason Gillis, and so they have experience. And it can't be said that young teams can't win it, because we've had 2 of them since 2012, when built around freshmen. And you can go back to 2003 as well to find another that was built around freshmen. Although that wasn't the one and done era, and only one of those players went immediately pro. So you can't say it can't happen. We've had it happen 3 times in this century, which now we've had like 23 tournaments, 24 tournaments. I think it's 23 in this century. So it certainly can be done.
Absolutely. And it's always fun to see who ends up doing it and how it gets done, because it never quite works out how any of us expect.
Yes.
And that's why it's so great. If it did, it wouldn't be fun. If it was all chalk, it wouldn't be fun. But that's why it's so hard to predict. And I love that. Let's see. I mentioned, we'll talk just briefly about it, but there's nothing. Indiana's coaching search is pretty silent, and it's, I don't want to say driving fans crazy, but it's just the desire to know something, anything. It pushes them towards any time a piece of information, no matter how incorrect it might be, goes up. Someone puts up a balloon, man, that thing is devoured. They were just devouring anything that comes out. And I just don't see any information coming out until it's time, mainly because Scott Dolson doesn't want it out for the sake of the other coach, the other team, the other school. And I mentioned that earlier before you joined us. I go, it's big to them. It could be detrimental to what you're trying to accomplish for that to get out. On top of that, plus these other teams, they're playing for something right now.
Oh, yeah.
And you do not want to be a disruption to that in any way.
The coaches that you want think about it this way. Let's just use Grant McCasland as an example, okay? You want Grant McCasland to lose the first game of the NCAA tournament and then hire him so you can have him sooner? Or do you want the guy who is good enough to win and advance a little bit so you can feel good about who you're hiring? It's kind of a catch-22. This is what you get into when you make a move early. You get the certainty that you need so that everything can go back to being about basketball, which is what happened at Indiana and a big part of why they're being successful. There's the exterior pressure which had gotten really difficult. And I'm not saying unfair, but really difficult. And then there was the interior decision to say, okay, if this is going down, we're going down with guys who were playing for Indiana, because we haven't had that for a little bit. And when they made the move to put Liao in the starting lineup, it changed the entire team's personality and has driven them forward to where they are now. I mean, not safely in the field. Nobody's ever safe unless you're like up on the top 8 lines. You can't sit there and say we're good. But they're in good shape and will probably make it. And I think that has a lot to do with the people, people who want to go now. Are you sure no? The reason this is happening is because is in some part because they have certainty now.
Yeah, I noticed the Big Ten it's of the 9 teams that I expect to get into the NCAA tournament, 7 of them are ranked. So they're good teams. They don't have many marginal teams. They're
Right.
either pretty decent or not so good.
Well,
with
I mean,
a couple in the middle.
I think that has to do with the fact that when you have so many significant teams, it's hard for teams like even Nebraska to get oxygen. Nebraska, a week ago, before they went to Columbus for that bubble game, they were in the field. They were not even in Dayton. On my bracket, they did not have to go to Dayton. They were not safely in, but they were, I think, the lone 11 seed that was not in Dayton. They were the last bye, as Joe Lunardi calls it. I don't like to think of it as a bye because like 64 teams get a bye. I don't like, but anyway, they were the one team that stands in that category. And then they lost 2 in a row, including one that got them eliminated from the Big Ten tournament. And I think was the end for them. I just don't see how the committee could say, well, you couldn't make the Big Ten tournament, but you could make ours. That's not going to happen. So that it shows you how challenging the league is, even at the bottom of the standings. There are still very good teams there. SC beat multiple NCAA tournament teams. One of them on the road. Iowa goes out and does what I did on Saturday, and it wasn't really close. In an arena where Nebraska does not lose very often, even with not great teams in some years. They went out and they took it to Nebraska. So I think the teams are capable, as is the case with LSU, for instance, or Texas, and to a lesser extent, South Carolina. They just can't get any oxygen in a league with 12, 13 really good teams. And in the case of the Big Ten,
yeah, that's 12, 13 out of what's only 16. So
right. And in the Big Ten, it's probably 10, 11 really good teams, including Nebraska in that. And then 4 or 5 that are pretty good, but just can't get the oxygen. And then one team in Washington that just wasn't very good this year. They invested a lot in a player who was expected to be outstanding and was not.
Kevin K-Bro says, can Indiana be this year's North Carolina State? And if so, does Woodson change his mind? Well, first of all, his mind would have to be changed for him.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with no. I do not think that they can be. But who am I to say to stomp on somebody's dream? I hope you're doing well, K-Bro. Always with the good questions, though.
Yeah, he's the man.
We've got to take a break. We've got plenty to get back to. The Big Ten tournament starts tomorrow. I assume you're going to be in Indianapolis?
I will be in Indianapolis on Friday.
Perfect. We'll be back with more. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox Networks right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the hard truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the hard truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday, and that means a visit by our good friend Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox Networks. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all his content everywhere he is, which is a lot. He's ubiquitous Mike, but we can't get enough. Looking at the bracket, Mike, for the Big Ten tournament, which begins tomorrow in earnest, with 3 games in the afternoon of the final 3 teams that made it in. And how about speaking of Nebraska doesn't even make the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
And they lose it on a tiebreaker. And I don't know what I don't remember what the tiebreaker was, but there were like 72 teams that were tied with the same record there in that last spot. And they were the odd man out, unfortunately, which is shocking.
Really difficult.
It's shocking. I mean, it's shocking that Nebraska didn't make the Big Ten tournament. And I'm not cutting on Nebraska. I'm just saying how surprised. I'm like, wow, I know how decent of a team they are. And so is it with that many teams? Should they just have everybody in? Is it really that big of a deal since you're playing tomorrow? You don't start until 3:30 anyway. What the hell? Why not play a couple more games?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what went into that decision. I will say that it certainly created more interest in the final few games. I mean, that Iowa-Nebraska game was much more intensely followed than it might have been otherwise.
How about the Nebraska-Ohio State game? We went to 2 overtimes. They lose by a bucket.
Well, in that sense, it was not really about, when that game was played, it was not about getting into the Big Ten tournament. It was about getting into the big dance. It was a bubble game. Both teams had a shot. And so that was about that. But the Sunday game between Iowa and Nebraska was principally about getting that last spot in the Big Ten field. And it created a significant amount of interest. And I think it influenced how Iowa played. I think Iowa put an A game out there, and I think Nebraska felt the pressure. And that's, and pressure changes march. All the things that we talk about that happen, 95% of them, if not more, happen because of pressure. 5% happen because that team was way better than we thought they were, way better than anybody thought they were. We overlooked them, or we misseeded them, or whatever it might be. But then the other part of it, the biggest part of it, is game pressure. Purdue versus St. Peter's, played in a playground, in a high school gym, in a stadium, And no matter what the venue, 999 times out of 1,000, Purdue is winning that game. But play it as a 16-1, and all that pressure to advance is there, and Purdue with a little bit of a losing streak at that point in the tournament. And then all of a sudden the dynamic changes. And so, yeah, I think that makes a difference.
And I forgot about the Crown tournament. And to be honest with you, it was not that long ago that I could say I was today years old when I found out about the Crown tournament. I mean, I'm talking 3-4 weeks ago at max. No idea about this Crown tournament until I was like, what? So that's in essence for Big 12, Big 10, is it and Big East?
Correct. They are the principal members of the field, but there will be others invited from other conferences.
I mean, this is going to pretty much take care of the NIT, right? I mean, I know it'll still be there, but it's now you've got the NIT, the Crown, the CBI, which is a joke. But yeah, the Crown, they just created their own tournament, but they did it in Las Vegas. They made it some glitzy. But what else you gonna do? You had the NIT, and it was like an old woman's worn out coat, just like, what are you gonna do with this? I'm not wearing that. So I guess they put some shine on it, and a team but then Nebraska, they probably won't even make the Crown, will they?
Probably not. I think they
that's sad.
because the Big Ten is guaranteed a certain number of spots, and they certainly can go beyond that if they wish. And I think they could invite Nebraska if they wished. I don't think there's a rule against it. Although I will be honest, I don't know everything about how they're going to compose that field. But I do think there's an appeal to it. If you're going to play some more games, why not play them in Vegas and get that week out there, week and a half out there, as opposed. Yeah, here's your choice, Jim. You don't get to go to the big dance, but you can go to Florida State to play a road game, or you can go to Vegas and everybody plays on a neutral floor. I know which one I'm taking if I'm 22 years old.
Oh, you
daggone or in your 60s.
You're daggone Skippy. And it's for the teams, it's good to get more playing time for guys that are, well, if they're going to be there next year. That's a whole nother story. You don't know how much your roster is going to be left, but 16-team Crown tournament takes place March 31st through April 6th. Now, I guess that lapses over top of the national championship. I can't remember when. I think it's the 5th and 6th this year. But anyway, it's right about the same time. It features schools from the Big 10, Big 12, Big East, like I said. In addition to at-large participants, teams that did not participate in the NCAA tournament eligible, with 2 automatic qualifiers coming from each participating conference. So the 2 autos, Ohio State, if they don't make the NCAA tournament, will be one from the Big 10, and I don't remember who was immediately following them right now in the
I keep seeing Northwestern pop up as a potential invitee on the various graphics that they do with my brackets. So that's a possibility, I think.
Well, and funny you mentioned Northwestern. Not to just jump around here, but Indiana's coaching search, Chris Collins is a name that has not gotten a ton of bounce to it, but he may be one of the best options out there.
He's one of the best coaches in college basketball, Jim.
He's done more with less than most coaches out there, because when you're at Northwestern or Vanderbilt or a school like that their number one goal is to not win athletic contests. Not that they don't want to win. It's not their number one goal. It's not as sports driven as a lot of schools are, but they want to compete. And for them to have had the success in football, they've gone to the freaking Rose Bowl, which is difficult in the Big Ten Conference. They have done well under Chris Collins in basketball. He is a solid guy. I think he would be a good pickup, and maybe he's the best available option right now. I don't know, because I'm not sure who all is available. We don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who is truly available, but he's available.
Well, I think that it's hard to know who can be gotten, honestly, at this stage. I can tell you who won't be gotten. That's not usually hard. I mean, like when everybody was throwing Brad Stevens out as a candidate back when the whole thing. I wrote right away in my article about potential candidates that was ridiculous. He's making $11 million a year to not have to sweat over every win and loss.
You're not going to stand in a high school gym all summer long.
I'm sure he still cares very much about whether the Celtics win or lose, but it's a little different when you're in the executive office than when you're on the bench. And I think that he likes that life. If he didn't want that life, he wouldn't have taken the promotion, or he would have said, okay, I'll be president, but I'm still coaching or whatever. So no, I think he likes this. And so I never thought that was a possibility. And there are coaches like Nate Oates, for instance, if they had been interested in him, or Bruce Pearl, whose name was thrown out. No, I mean, they've got great jobs. They're doing everything they could want to do in basketball. They're making lots of money. And if you say, hey, I'm thinking about it, before you even get to the end of Indiana, they're saying, here's another $1 million or whatever. I mean, that's not going to happen. But there are coaches out there who are, very capable, who are in very good jobs and having very good seasons, who may or may not be swayed because their leagues are not as powerful and as solidified as the Big Ten is. Whatever happens in the future, the Big Ten is going to be there. And I don't think that there's going to be the kind of calamity that people generally predict. We've lost one conference at the major level in the last 70 years or whatever. So we don't see that kind of calamity happen. But if there is, the Big Ten will be standing. And no one else can say that other than the SEC. So I do think that you can find coaches in the Big 12 or some other conferences the ACC that might be interested and that would look at this as an opportunity to be in a solidified circumstance with championship potential. And there's not a lot of those out there. There are more than there used to be because of name, image, and likeness, and because of the growth of football revenue as an influence. I mean, we had Florida win in 2006 and 2007, and Florida would not have won a championship in the 90s or 80s. It just what the game was different then, but it's different now. So that you can win at Auburn or Alabama or Tennessee or you don't have you can win it at as we've seen you can win it at UConn. We've now seen 6 of those. So it's a little different now than it was, but Indiana still has great advantages over a lot of programs, facilities, interest, recruiting base. Still, what I learned in my 10 years living in Indiana is how well coached the typical Indiana player is relative to so many other places in the country. And that makes players better. That's why you can have multiple 5-stars from a state in Indiana. It's not a huge state. I mean, population-wise, it's not huge, but they keep turning out these guys that are Braylon Mullins and players like that who are tremendous talents, in part because they're great athletes, but also because they've been raised in the game of basketball. I wrote about this during the pandemic, Jim.
If you don't mind, if you've got a couple extra minutes, I can.
Okay, let's do that.
We've got to take a quick break. I've got the great Mike DeCourcy with us. He has been so gracious to give a few more minutes because he has got great information that we never want to miss out on. Back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. with a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music. You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Jim Coyle with you as always, and joined by the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox Networks. And where's this comment? I want to make sure I don't miss this one. Dusty Banner says, DeCourcy's making points that can't be argued. Boom. Mic drop. Absolutely. Where were we?
What I was talking about was that ubiquity of basketball in Indiana, Jim. And during the pandemic, when we couldn't really go anywhere, I was taking a lot of walks with my wife through our neighborhood, our old neighborhood in Fishers. And there were 2 neighborhoods that were adjacent, ours, and then another that was that was partially built and under construction. They kept adding new houses to it as we made our walks. And as we walked, it was about, on average, about every 3rd house. Now, we were a very suburban neighborhood, so there were lots of kids and such. We were a little older than most of our neighbors, let's put it that way. But there, almost every 3rd house had a basketball hoop. I mean, it was amazing. I couldn't believe
how
many.
One with where I was when I grew up as a kid in school and up into high school. We had a little neighborhood, and at the bottom of the circle. Oh yeah, it's there, baby. That's where it went down. And during the summer, it was about every day. Or we'd be up at the school, the elementary school that had outdoor courts, multiple outdoor courts. Or we'd be down at the ballpark. Little Georgetown, little town that's, it had one officer, no jail, didn't even have its own jail, no stoplights, but they had basketball courts, baby. And they were every night it was going. It's just, I always thought it was just like that everywhere. It was just, it's just something that started, I guess, back in the days of harvesting and all of that. And football, this was not a football state. It was a basketball state, I guess.
Well, part of that, I suppose, is, again, population based. Harder to get 11 players than it is to get 5. And so so they gravitated toward that, and they had excellence. Branch McCracken brought a couple of national championships in, and that fueled it. But it's one of my favorite things about Indiana is how immersed in the game that the state is. And so I think that is when when everything is in the right place, that is an advantage. When everything is not in the right place, it's a disadvantage. It's harder to win when you don't have exactly the right coach and he or she is not doing exactly the right things. Then it's harder to win. And so that's where, in all honesty, they have to get this right, because Indiana can't go through another 4 or 5 years of what has happened for most of the last 25.
No, because too many schools have shown, the example I thought of, Xavier. How many coaches in a row did Xavier hire that were successful? Just one after another, after another. It's like, gee whiz, they kept getting plucked, but because they were successful. I can't even remember the entire string of.
Well, I can give it to you. You went from Pete Gillen to Skip Prosser.
Yes.
From Skip Prosser to Thad Matta, from Thad Matta to Sean Miller, from Sean Miller to Chris Mack. And then they hired Travis Steele. Travis was a little young and did not succeed at quite the level he could have. He's now doing great work at Miami, Ohio. And then
they hired the right guy. They didn't bring in a crapper. It's like, oh man, that stands out to me because it's not easy to not make a mistake there. And
right.
They didn't. Indiana has done nothing but that, not always in the wrong coaches per se, but the wrong coach during the wrong situation or the wrong time. Timing has always been an issue for Indiana. And there's a lot. It seems like there's too much that goes into Indiana's coaching process prior to now. I think Scott Dolson is going to do fine being left to himself. Let him do what he needs to do. He has the experience now. I think that he knows what he's doing. And if people would just leave him alone, he'll be fine. He was a manager on a national championship team. He knows the importance of what it means to the school, to the town, to everything. How it's important that Indiana's good. They should be good. College basketball is better when Kansas and Indiana and Duke and North Carolina and Kentucky are fighting each other. You want other teams up there, but they still like to see people still like to see the Yankees and the Dodgers go at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is good for college basketball to have those teams as targets. I don't think it's in comparing them to baseball. I don't like the fact that in baseball there's an unfair advantage that can't be overcome. In basketball now, it's never been more even. You have to execute right, or someone else will, and that has not generally happened. It has periodically happened in those 25 years. But it's not generally happened at Indiana. And this is a great opportunity for them to get it right in this circumstance. They get the right person and the right coach. And it's a different deal at Indiana than it is at some places. And I remember, I knew Arch Miller for a very long time, and I still like him and think he's a terrific basketball coach. But when they went for him at that point, I was concerned about how someone who was naturally not, I don't know, shy is a strong word, but naturally not outgoing. It's not really part of his personality. How would he handle all that attention? And I remember going to his press conference. I came back from the regional down in Memphis where Carolina beat Kentucky on a buzzer shot, got off the plane, drove straight to Bloomington so that I could be at his press conference. And I convinced myself that with how he handled a press conference, that just by focusing on the game and on the sport, that he could get through all the rest of it. And it just didn't ever really quite work. That they did some good things, but they didn't quite get it to work. And with Kelvin, I knew at the time that it was a mistake, although I didn't know how profound it was, because Kelvin Sampson was one of the best coaches in the history of college basketball. But you can't, at Indiana, 6 years after what happened with Bob Knight, hire a coach that his most ardent supporters would be opposed to, because he had been, because the program in which he was in charge was under an NCAA investigation that had not been completed, that it had not been adjudicated yet. When he was hired, they had not gotten to the end of the process. And the end of the process came, I think, 2 months after he was hired. You can't hire that guy in that circumstance. You have to get a coach nearly as good as Kelvin that doesn't have that on his resume at the moment. If you hire Kelvin 5 years after that, you're fine. Because what happened at Oklahoma wasn't that bothersome. It just was not something that you could accommodate at Indiana.
And the fact that he did it right, turned right around and did it with that. I know it was a stupid rule, but that's not the point. It was a rule. It was a rule he got caught for, and he just turned right around and did it again. And I'm like, wow, that was pretty brazen. I know he was trying to win, but
he was trying to win, and he thought he had a workaround. Is basically what it came down to. He thought he had a workaround, and he didn't. As the committee the Committee on Infractions adjudicated it, he didn't have a workaround. But all of this has led to where we stand now, and I think that this is I said, it's an opportunity, but it's one that they have to seize. And I do think there are
the ironic thing,
coaches out
Mike, is where Dusty Bennett says Chris Beard deserves redemption. And he is, I'll say, a fan favorite by a large portion of the fan base. And I have said over and over, it is my belief that just will not happen. And it's not I don't know that it's for one reason, to be honest with you, but they have access to information I don't have. And I'm not talking about just about the incident that everyone's thinking about. Who knows? It may just be fit. It may be something else that Scott doesn't see or like. I don't know, but I don't see it happening. We'll find out. But we will see you in Indianapolis on Friday. I can't wait. Looking forward to it as the Big Ten tournament gets underway. And anything until then for you?
We will announce our All-America team on Wednesday at sportingnews.com. Jim,
I have to ask.
You didn't have enough assists this year. That's the problem.
I have to ask every year.
And we will announce our national player and coach of the year on Thursday. And we also will, I will be at BTN on Saturday and Sunday as part of the pregame and postgame shows on BTN for the Big Ten tournament on Saturday and Sunday. And you can find me on Fox, FS1, and Fox on Thursday and Friday night talking about brackets during the intermissions for the Big East tournament.
Does Indiana have to win to get in, or are they solidly in? They're playing Oregon.
They don't have to win, but it would be advisable to go ahead and take advantage of the opportunity. You
are
open
they far
the door.
Enough up that if they lost, do they get bumped to the play-in game?
I think I have them in Dayton as it stands. But you don't want to give them you don't want to give the committee any reason to put Carolina in over you, because you kind of know that they'd love to. Carolina is Carolina, and Indiana is a great story too. Maybe who's really in jeopardy would be Ohio State. They've got to play Iowa, which played really well, and then they have to, presuming they take care of that. If they don't, they have to sweat, and if they do, then they have to play Wisconsin, which also means sweating. So they both have challenges there, but I think that's true of every bubble team. Xavier, which is the last team in for me and just about everybody, Xavier has to play Marquette in their quarterfinals at the Big East tournament. So there are no easy games in these bubble situations.
They're not supposed to be, baby. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Correct.
Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten and Fox Networks. As always, buddy, we appreciate you. We'll see you Friday up in Indianapolis.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Hey, up next, the great Scotty Davenport, just retired from Bellarmine as their head coach, but he has been around the game, around the community, the Louisville community down there forever, and he is a huge part of it. Can't wait to talk to him again. Great, great, great guy. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this break. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing, or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Wilmington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theUglyGrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday, and we are honored to have Scotty Davenport with us, the former coach at Bellarmine University down in Louisville, who transferred from Division II up to Division I, and man, should have been in the NCAA tournament the first year. I don't want to talk about that because I'm still mad about that for you. But how are you doing, brother? I appreciate you so much, Mr. Davenport.
I'm Mr. Coyle. I'm feeling the pressure. I mean, you set me up to follow Mike DeCourcy?
Oh, we were lauding your virtues before. What are you talking about?
No, I thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'm not just saying this. There's a national championship banner or graphic behind me, right? Only 4 of those starters were from Indiana, so we'll just leave that part right in there.
I remember when you were building that. Well, first of all, for those of you that if you don't know, Scotty is known in the Louisville community because he was I didn't know you were a graduate assistant at U of L. I knew you were an assistant, but I was looking, I'm like, oh, be darn, he snuck that one in there. But before he became head coach at Ballard High School in Louisville, where he just dominated the Louisville basketball scene. I remember great games. I went to Floyd Central coming over. He had Allen Houston and just some incredible teams. Then was an assistant at Louisville under Hall of Famers Denny Crum and Rick Pitino, 2 greats. How many did you win 2 national titles in your run?
1.
Or 1. Still got that ring, baby. Still got that ring, though.
4 Final Fours at Bellarmine, a Final Four at Louisville, a national championship. You bring up the Ballard Floyd Central games, the great Joe Hinton. That's Pat Graham against Allen Houston.
Yes, it was
How
amazing.
Good could that be in high school?
I mean, I saw it. I was there. It was amazing to watch.
See, I mean, wow. And Joe Hinton, it would be impossible for anybody to respect Joe Hinton more than I do.
I love Joe because I learned being a student there. I wasn't good enough to play basketball at Floyd. But I remember seeing him after a regional game in a hotel. He was just sitting on a floor after he lost a game, and he was just sitting on a floor. And I'm like, I've never seen a 50-something-year-old man sitting on the floor. He was just, it ate him up. He was such a competitor. Off the court, nicest guy you'll ever talk to. On the floor, he might eat your arm if you stick it up there.
I'm the president of the Joe Hinton fan club, so you're talking to the wrong guy.
I love it. No, I loved every bit of it. He's it was, but it was, those old days were so fun. I mean, that doesn't happen a lot in high school anymore because so many guys go off to prep schools and that. But man, those were great battles. There were plenty of others that you had. How many state championships? Did you win some state titles?
Well, and nobody, again, admires Indiana high school basketball more than I do. It's a great story. My first year as a head coach at Ballard, 1987, we lose in overtime in Rupp Arena to Clay County. The following January, we played Clay County in Broadbent Arena over at the fairgrounds in an LIT semifinal. They beat us in double overtime. In March of 88, we beat Clay County in Freedom Hall. Those 3 games were played in front of over 45,000 people. If you add up 1 overtime, 2 overtimes, a regulation game, and then you step back and we had players from the most affluent areas of Louisville. We had players from the west end of Louisville. I'm from over on the south end by Churchill Downs. We're playing Clay County in those 3 games. As mountain of a team as can be. They're coaches from the mountains. Families are coal miners. 3 games, 3 overtimes, 45,000 people. If you add it all up, the score was tied.
That's
and
how you like it.
I always said, and when I recruited throughout Indiana, they go out and they compete. And when the ball goes up, it's pure basketball. And I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, you
kids leaving
recruited.
Schools, this is the way it should be.
Well, you were very smart. I remember when you moved on to what Bellarmine was a Division II school, and then you and like Southern Indiana were having these battles, both great programs, quickly elevated Bellarmine to a national power, winning national titles, going to the Final Four. It was like a yearly expectation. I became a fan. I had no relationship to Bellarmine. I knew who you were, but I just loved what you were doing, and I became a fan, loved following Bellarmine. But you made a point. You recruited Indiana pretty hard. Lots of Indiana guys on your teams. Not that this is about Indiana, just a point of emphasis.
Well, the reason they came having played in such high-level competition, their poise was second to none. In other words, if you advance in Division II and you're hosting a regional to go to the Elite Eight and there's 5,000 people and it's sold out, Braden Hobbs and Jeremy Kendall and Luke Sprague and Justin Benedetti, they've played in those games. They played in those games in sectionals. They played them in semi-states. They totally understand playing in a very high level, and they play with incredible poise. And that's why we just fell in love. And you go on and on and on. Tyler Jenkins from Indianapolis. So we've had kids all over the state of Indiana, and that's the reason why.
A lot of Jeff fans on here watching. A lot of guys from Louisville follow us, and I love that because I love the mix. With Rick Bozich is on with me each Wednesday, so we keep the mix of, because it's the greatest to me. I grew up in Southern Indiana, and then because you've got the mix of Southern Indiana and Kentucky. I love that yin and yang kind of thing because it was a pull back and forth.
The Jeff Floyd Central Ballard games, Jeff and Ballard, Floyd Central Ballard. I scheduled those games every year because you couldn't simulate that to get ready for postseason. And I will tell you, one of the greatest high school games I've ever been involved in my life. And now that my career's over, it'll go down forever. Jim Ruther, our tremendous AD at Ballard, came to me the 1st of February. He said, I want you to listen to me. don't interrupt me. I want you to listen. And I said, yes, sir, Mr. Ruther. And he said, I want to move your Jeffersonville game. I said, we can't. That's senior night. These seniors deserve that. We're not doing that. He said, no, you listen to me. I want to move it. We'll reschedule senior night. I want to move it downtown Louisville to Louisville Gardens. It seated 6,000 people. We play the game. Long story short, the Jeffersonville choir sung Back Home Again in Indiana. The Ballard Ensemble sung My Old Kentucky Home. That's how we started the game. They were number 3 in the state. We were number 2 in Kentucky. That was that Indiana team with Sharon Wilkerson, with B.J. Flynn, coached by, oh my gosh, he's won the Hall of Fame.
He lives in, he's the
Mike Broughton. Mike Broughton.
Yeah, Mike Broughton.
And we played that game in a sold-out Louisville Gardens, and it's one of the greatest high school atmospheres I've ever seen. And it was amazing to sing those 2 songs representative of the Indianapolis 500 of the Kentucky Derby and then play the game. And Jim Ruther came up with that idea, and it was high school basketball. It'll never be forgotten.
Oh, and that's a loud place in there because the roof has been, or the ceiling has been lowered a long time ago. And those, again, history right there. You just mentioned B.J. Flynn. His dad was Mike Flynn, right?
Yes. And I
Mr. Basketball in Indiana
Marcus
for Jeffersonville.
Played on my first team ever at Bellarmine.
It's just crazy how everything is just tied together. Then Sharon Wilkerson, now the head coach at Jeffersonville after having played at Indiana.
Job. I coached B.J. Flynn at Louisville, Marcus Flynn at Bellarmine, and Mike Flynn. I was just admired his game from Jeffersonville to the University of Kentucky, and then to coach the 2 sons. And Sharon has done, in the day and time when coaching high school, like you mentioned, is very difficult. Sharon has done amazing.
I think he would be a heck of a college coach. I really do.
No question.
And I love Sharon. I love him as a person. He's one of the people I respect most in this life because he had a time in his life where he could have gone a different direction, and he did a 180 like no one I've ever seen. And I just have so much respect for him because of that.
Well, you watch him coach his team. They are as well coached. And when I say that, that's a very broad statement. They are incredibly disciplined, and they are as respectful. And we recruited 2 of their players. We didn't get them. But I'm telling you, they're as respectful young people as anywhere you'll find in high school basketball.
Absolutely. What are you going to not miss about coaching, going to the gyms in the summer when you don't, and recruiting and all that crazy stuff?
No, I really enjoyed the recruiting part because, in my opinion, the biggest lost art in college basketball is the ability to evaluate talent. That's a lost art. And when I say evaluate, but we probably, there's more than one way to be successful. That's the first lesson you ever learn in coaching. There's more than one way. But what we evaluate, it might be warm-ups. It might be body language. It might be a player during a timeout when things aren't going well. It might be a player picking a teammate up who's not having a great game. We look at things. How did he handle a tough loss? How did he embrace a great win? We evaluate things that were very, very important in our value system. So I won't miss that part. I liked watching that. Because when we evaluate those players, we took a young man out of Wrights Memorial, Dylan Penn. Dylan had 1 Division I interest. 1. We take him, signing. Dylan comes to us, leads us on March 8th, 2022, to the ASUN Conference Tournament Championship, which had never been done in the history of college basketball. Never been done, a transitioning team win the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament, even though we couldn't go like you mentioned. Dylan Penn had no offers. And he's playing professionally in Europe right now. And it's one of the most amazing stories ever. But we prided ourselves on that ability to evaluate talent.
Well, you had a lot of guys that would end up leaving and going to play, whether in Europe or wherever, that played professionally, because whether they came from wherever and had a good foundation, well, they had a hell of a lot better when they left, and they were winners. And that's the thing. They all became winners, and winners the right way. How many Division II titles and Final Fours did you guys make it to?
Won a national championship in 2011, went to 4 Final Fours. And what's important to me is in 2005, I took the job, and they had won 9 games. And 5 years later, we won a national championship. Braden Hobbs played 12 years in Europe at a very, very, very high level.
What, the New Albany High School, right?
New Albany High School. He was the 3rd leading scorer on a Division II team. But he won. He was one of the greatest locker room players, the locker room inhabitants you would ever have. And he plays 12 unbelievable years. Jeremy Kendall still playing. Jeremy Kendall, who's from Jeffersonville, still playing in Australia. Pedro Bradshaw playing in Australia at a very high level. That were all Division II players. Now, here's what's amazing. They all have a Bellarmine degree in their pocket.
Well, and you know what? That would be something for you to do in retirement. Now you can go visit all of these guys where they are.
If they hear you say that, they'll probably cancel your show.
No, say I'm sure they got a room for you, man.
That with a Bellarmine degree in their pocket.
Well, they're doing it with a Scotty Davenport degree is what they're actually doing it with, if we want to be honest, because I know that great coaches like you, you're not alone, but great coaches like you, when their players leave, they're leaving with a degree. And it's not just basketball. It is basketball enveloped with life. And those are players that are going to do well in life because they're going to succeed at what they do, whether it's in business or on the floor, because they have a good head on their shoulders. And that comes from the coaching. It comes from the experiences they have from people like yourself.
I've always been a believer that you use every resource. Smart people wear people out that want to help them. If you go through a college basketball career and you take that education and you match that with attention to detail, with passion, with dedication that it takes to play college basketball, it's going to pay off. You think of this. We had 4 freshmen at Bellarmine this year. 3 of them started. They are going to work and apply these types of learning things I'm talking about probably past the year 2070. Do the math. They're 18 years old. Let's take that's 45 years. That'll be 63 in 2070.
I don't think I'll be here.
But this is what coaching is. You know, everybody, it's college. Should be 4 of the greatest years of your life. But it should prepare you for the next 45 years of your life.
And the game has certainly changed now with the portal and NIL, especially at the highest levels. How much has that hurt the lower levels? Because they seem like almost a training ground of sorts now.
It depends how you handle it. We as a staff embraced the idea. And my son, who's going to be named the head coach at Bellarmine University today, Doug, spearheaded the drive. Yeah, NIL is a real thing. Well, let's do it through internships where they get paid and be a Humana. ISCO, that's the Kirchdorfer family that owns Valhalla. Let's do it through Morgan Stanley, Tom Peroni, Will Wolford. Let's do it through Norton Healthcare. Let's do it through these corporate entities that, let's say they hire them the day they're out of Bellarmine, they have jobs. So they're getting paid. They're getting paid in college, but what it's doing is it's paving the way for a professional career off the court. If they play internationally, that's great. But why not get them paid on something that they can utilize in the real world. So we cultivate NIL, but we put a huge emphasis on internships. Jeff Wachtel, a player that played for us, went through an internship with a company that was early on in joint replacements, hips, shoulders, knees, right? He's now overseeing their company all over the southeastern part of the United States because everybody wants to live longer and live better. He played at Bellarmine. You know who he puts in internships? Our players.
It's a good way to do it. It's a good way to do it. If you've got a few more minutes, I'd love to talk some NCAA basketball as it's that time of year, and couldn't get a better perspective than yours, but I've got to take a break. You have a few more minutes?
Yes, sir.
I love you for it. We've got the great Scotty Davenport on, Bellarmine basketball coach emeritus, as he has just retired, and I won't say replaced. He has been augmented by his son. And first of all, how incredible is that? I mean, I know that when you started coaching however many years ago, that was not a thought that was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, man, you have a great career of which now your son takes over.
Well, Doug was a high school student at Ballard. Our staff at Louisville, Coach Pitino's first staff, the assistants were Coach Mick Cronin, whose dad was a high school baseball coach scout for the Reds. Kevin Willard, whose dad was Coach Pitino's assistant at Kentucky, went on to
killing it at Maryland right now.
In Pittsburgh, now the head coach at Maryland. Well, think of that. There's three of us, and all our sons ended up being coaches. They were their dad, and now my son is going to be a coach. I mean, this is probably my favorite Rick Pitino first-year story. And there's no online digital. When I left my house every morning, out of a jar, I picked up 2 quarters. At the corner of Floyd and Warnock, 2 blocks from U of L's campus, I pulled my car over, got a newspaper out of the newspaper stand at 5:40 a.m. every single morning. Go into my office, 3 sections of the paper, the features, the Metro, and the sports, or the front section, excuse me. And Kevin Willard had a section, I had a section, Mick had a section, and we sit there and just waited for Coach Pitino to say, okay, guys, let's go. It'd start our morning meeting. How much basketball you think was taught among Scott Davenport, Mick Cronin, and Kevin Willard every morning? Mick was 30. Kevin was 25. Now head coach of Maryland, head coach at UCLA, and I was 45.
Man, to be a fly on the walls there,
every
crazy.
Morning with a newspaper.
It's nuts. We'll be back with more Scotty Davenport on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the backside right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work, work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Grateful to have former Bellarmine coach Scott Davenport with us as he has just announced his retirement. And what are you going to do next? Are you just going to chill, or do you have plan? Are you going to go into TV because you're a great character with great personality and you would be incredible on TV for basketball analysts and whatnot? And I'm sure you have plenty of opportunities, or you can just do nothing.
Well, one, I want to help Bellarmine. I will always continue to help Bellarmine in any way I can. If that's speaking on behalf of what the university stands for, if that's helping generate, income and donations, any way I can help. Secondly, I did a little radio thing this morning at early, and then I did a local TV that was a lot of fun. Now I'm doing you, and I'm going to do 4 miles the moment we hang up. I'm going to do 4 miles, and then I'm going to spend the rest of this day responding to an overwhelming number of emails and texts that I've received from mentors, from former players. It's impossible not to become emotional when you coached 47 years and 46 of them in this community.
Where was the other one that wasn't?
In Richmond at Virginia Commonwealth University at VCU.
I did not see that. When was that?
85, 86. Now, here's what you'll love. The head coach was Mike Polio, who went on to become an associate AD at the University of Louisville, whose son is the Dr. Polio's, the superintendent of Jefferson County Public Schools. Our assistants, our staff was Eddie Webb, Coach Eddie Webb, whose dad was a legendary Hall of Fame Division III coach at Randolph-Macon. And the other assistant besides myself was Tubby Smith.
The connections never end.
They never end.
But that's what life is about. It's a spider web. It is a spider web of connections, and especially in athletics, in the coaching fraternity.
And then when I'm at Louisville, Coach Polio's the associate AD, and the great story was I was the only coach Coach Pitino had ever retained from a previous staff. And after I was retained, Coach Pitino says there was a large faction didn't want me to keep you. I looked at him like,
he's probably making that up.
Like I thought people liked me. And he goes, "You want to know why?" And I said, "Yes, sir, Coach." We were driving, recruiting. And he said, "Because they said you were so loyal to Coach Crum that I was making the biggest mistake I'd ever make." He didn't want to know what I told him. I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And he said, "He'll be that loyal to me too." And he kept me. And then I find out shortly after that one of that conversation was Coach Polio, who was associate AD under Tom Jurich, and Coach Pitino. And that conversation was held.
Well, speaking of Rick Pitino, he is doing it again. Probably the greatest coach in college basketball, one of the greatest ever, no doubt. But the greatest coach in basketball today in college basketball is taking this St. John's team and turn them into a top 10 team in his second season. Fun to watch this stuff. And I just love watching him work. The energy he has at 72, 3, 4, whatever he is, is amazing because he puts these 60-year-old coaches to shame. He is stalking the sidelines, and he is so into those games, and I love it. But he's a winner, man. He wins.
Here's what he's great at. You remember, there's not a first, but the group that embraced the three-point shot, Coach Pitino, with that Providence team, with Billy Donovan, Delray Brooks, there's no question. He embraced it.
Former Indiana player, yeah.
Okay, now what dominates the game now? The three-point shot. It dominates the game, right? And
he was ahead of the curve.
What's he do? He defends like no team in the country. So when everybody zigs over here, he zags and goes the other way. He's the greatest at doing it.
Yeah,
So
they're fun to watch.
Everybody wants to shoot the three. Everybody wants to just be dribble offense. And he's going to become this defensive, he always has been a defensive-minded coach. But now that is his trademark where it was. So he evolves. He evolves better than anyone. He does.
And then you mentioned Willard earlier. Man, Maryland is
yes.
They're one of my sleeper teams in the NCAA tournament, but they're a team that I think could win the Big Ten tournament. They may be my favorite to win the Big Ten tournament. Michigan State I just don't think they're as strong as they have seen, but man, they've looked good. But Maryland has just slowly come on. Derek Queen, the big guy from Montverde Academy. I interviewed him several times when he was in school. Man, that dude is for real. He is, they've got a really good team put together, but Willard does a great job of mixing the interior and the perimeter play on that team.
But Jim, I'm going to say this to you. And one, nobody has more respect for Tom Izzo than I do. And I think he has a team that they want to be Michigan State. In this day and age, it's very difficult because a lot of players want you to become them. I think he's got players who want to become him.
He has a team.
And now, as far as Coach Willard, I spoke with Kevin at length the other day, and I'll give you a little tip. As Doug's announced this afternoon as the head coach at Bellarmine, it's obviously I've seen him, and it's incredibly emotional as a father. So with Doug's announcements going to come statements concerning Doug from Coach Pitino, Coach Willard, and Mick Cronin.
Very, very, very cool. Those are three names that
yes,
you'd love to get a backing from.
And in talking to Kevin, I can tell you this, he really likes his basketball team. And when a coach likes his team, the message that I get from that is they all want the same thing. And when everybody in that room wants the same thing and is willing to do whatever it takes to get it, that's going to be really powerful. So I agree with you on your assessment of Maryland. Now, UCLA and Mick, Coach Cronin caught a lot of flack that he was too hard on him. Well, let me tell you about it. And Mick and I talk all the time. Here's the strength of UCLA. Those players are embracing that Coach Cronin's doing things for them, that he's not doing things to them. He got ridiculed. He got ridiculed nationally that he's too hard on him and he's this, he's that. And I disagree, respectfully disagree, because those players understand he's doing it for them. He is not waking up in the morning saying, I'm going to go mess up this player. So, give me a Mick Cronin, Kevin Willard game, and I'll sit at midcourt and wear both colors.
And it'll be a fun one to watch. Speaking of Mick Cronin, Indiana, of course, will have an opening at their head coach position at the end of this season. Mick Cronin, one of the names that is still being floated. Of course, he has a lot of ties back this way, whether it's at Cincinnati and the Louisville area and whatnot. I don't know how that will end up. I don't know how the job search will end up, but the circle seems to be getting a little smaller. Dusty May signing an extension at Michigan. But for the rest, I'm not sure where they're going to end up. But this is an opportunity for Indiana to kind of get back to being what they used to be. Now they're not going to, I'm not saying Bob Knight, because Bob Knight's not walking through that door, and his negatives aside, he was a coaching savant. So, and those just don't come along every day, but it's fun to watch the young coaches coach kind of old school and win. And I think fans just really, really love that. And, but Indiana, boy, they are hungry for a winner.
Well, number one, you can never go wrong with Coach Mick Cronin. And Mick will make a decision based on his family and his daughter and what his priorities. So Mick's a phenomenal. He's a basketball coach. But I've never had this opportunity. But I think this format is the one that's perfect. So in 2011, Coach Knight is doing ESPN games. He has a 9:00 Friday night game. U of L's in Big East. It's UConn U of L here in Louisville at the Yum Center. Billy Reed, the longtime Hall of Fame journalist, was a season ticket holder at Bellarmine. I've known Billy my whole life. Billy calls me on Thursday and said, I'm going to offer you an opportunity, but you say one word to anyone and it's over. And I said, okay, you've got my word. He said, would you want Coach Knight to talk to your team tomorrow? I said, yes. And he says to me, if you say one word, it's over. I said, he said, I'm hanging the phone up. He calls me the next morning on Friday morning. He said, what time are you practicing? I said, 3:00. He said, I'll be there at 3:30. He said, I'm going to park at that back door and come in. If one person knows a word, it's over. I'm getting back in the car and we're leaving. I don't tell a word. I don't tell an assistant. I don't tell an administrator. I don't tell my wife. I don't tell anybody. 3:35. Now, you got to understand, we got 4 starters from Southern Indiana on that team. We got 8 players total on that team from Indiana. The back door of Knight's Hall, right left of the stage, walks in Billy Reed and Coach Bob Knight. He walks to midcourt and assesses and watches practice. Stands there. We finished practice. We were played on Thursday. We play on Saturday. So it's not a long, drawn-out practice. I walk over. I introduce myself. He said, this is unbelievable. I love this. He goes, I want to talk to these boys. I said, Coach, we'd be honored. You want to talk to them here in the locker room? I want them in the locker room. Walks in our locker room. Our locker room is not what it is now. We had an unbelievable supporter, Dr. Mark Lynn and his wife, built us a state-of-the-art, anywhere in the country locker room. This is our old locker room. Coach Knight stands there in front of that team. And the lockers are in an L shape. And he's right in the middle of that L where he can see him. I'm right over his shoulder where I can watch their eyes. And boy, he gets amped up. He starts really getting after it. And a phone rings.
Oh.
I'm looking around because this is 2011. I mean, it wasn't just commonplace. And I'm looking around like, I'm going to kill somebody. He reaches in his pocket, puts it back in his pocket, takes it out, puts it back in. It's his phone. He gets amped up again. And I mean, he's getting after him. It rings again. He answers the phone. He goes, I'm talking to the team. I'll call you. Exactly in that tone.
I'm sure.
He puts it back in his pocket. And now he becomes very soft-spoken. He said, any of you boys married? I mean, you know, college players, there may be an occasional player. Yeah. And they all look at him. No, sir. No, sir. He goes, well, when you do get married, that's how you handle that. That was my wife.
Yeah.
Now he gets up again. He finishes. And he's so imposing size-wise. He's finished, and every player stands up and walks up and gives him a firm handshake and thanks him. He turns to me. And he said, that's as impressive group of young men as I've talked to in years. I'm going to follow every game you play. Well, the assignment was by the next morning at our next walkthrough, they had to have a letter, typed thank you note to Coach Knight. I packaged them. I sent them off to him. I get the response. I still have it to this day. And he watched every game as that team won the national championship.
Incredible.
About 5 or 6 years ago, I'm at Indiana Downs. My son's father-in-law owned a horse in the Indiana Derby. Coach Knight's making an appearance. And I went over to him. I said, Coach, I just want to introduce myself. And I explained who I was, and I thanked him for coming. And he said, I'll never forget that team you coached. He said, you're one hell of a basketball coach, son. And I loved watching you. And he turns around to the people that are all with him and explains everything about that team. So, you don't get to tell these stories. But now here's what's important. It's the most important thing about this. He didn't have to come to that locker room. It wasn't about money. Billy Reed convinced him that he would enjoy talking to these teams. He came in town to do a game. He did not have to come do that. To me, that defines an extraordinary individual.
Well, I know that I'm talking to an extraordinary individual, and I am grateful that you took the time to be with us. I am happy for you and look forward that you get to do whatever the heck you want to do every day going forward. And I look forward to hopefully having you back on here just to talk some hoops. One of the great minds. You need to write a book, seriously, because there are only so many people that have the amount and the kinds of stories that you have. Not everybody has that. The majority of people do not have that, but they would love to read about it. And especially from your perspective, because I know it would be
you to say
tremendous.
That. I don't know if anybody would read it, but it's very nice of you to say that.
Oh, I am sure it would, because just the stories you've talked about here today are extraordinary. And I'm sure that doesn't even hit the tip of the iceberg. Well, brother, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy tournament week. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Well, anything I can ever do to help you. This is an honor because you understand this audience is so knowledgeable. Again, they can talk basketball. In going on the recruiting trail and recruiting throughout the state of Indiana, people come up. I mean, they know basketball. And I'm going to leave you with this. Here's how I got indoctrinated. I'm the JV coach at Ballard High School, and I've just started coaching. No, I was still at Aaron's, I think. Coach Bill Olson, Denny Crum's top assistant, who later became the athletic director at Louisville. He says, I'm going to go to a high school game. I want you to go with me Saturday night. It's Saturday night between Christmas and New Year's. I said, yes, sir, Coach, I'll go. I didn't even ask him where we're going. We get in the car. He goes, we're going to Newcastle. We stop and eat. We go watch Steve Alford play. And we go, they feed the team afterwards, and we're down there with talking to his dad, the team, Steve, everyone. And there was about 8,500 people on a Saturday night between Christmas and New Year's in that beautiful, unbelievable, iconic gym. And that was my indoctrination to Indiana high school basketball. Years later in Maui, I told Coach Alford the story, and I told his dad the story. And it was unbelievable that Coach Olson took me, just a JV coach. I'd been a walk-on player at U of L, and he knew me, and I worked camps for him. And he drives me up there to go experience what is the ultimate in high school basketball.
Well, you're the ultimate, brother. We appreciate you. I am so happy to get to talk to you, Scotty. It's an honor, and love you for your time today, buddy.
Well, thank you. I'm so appreciative to everyone I am, and I'm going to go run 4 miles.
Enjoy it, buddy. Appreciate you. Scotty Davenport joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Have a great day, sir. Man, that was just a blast. What an incredible person, much less a coach and everything else, leader of young men. But kind of a little unusual show today, more of a conversational, but enjoyed it. Enjoyed the heck out of it. Back tomorrow as the Big Ten tournament gets underway. Dylan Sin, Kyle Nedenrip, Rick Bozich will join us. Make sure you come back. We'll be here again as the tournament week is upon us. Thank you so much, everyone. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.